Hello everybody, I am the Linkzilla, and I'm here to bring you what could possibly be my final channel update. Now, this has basically been a topic that has been making the rounds on YouTube for basically the last 2 weeks, and I thought that I'd basically get my 2 cents in on it. I wanted to have this video done earlier, but what can I say, I've finally went on Thanksgiving break for the fall semester of college, and it's a break that, quite frankly, I needed to take, because this semester has been hitting me left and right. So, the subject that I'm going to bring up is basically YouTube's new policies in regards to the Child Online Privacy Protection Act, also known as COPPA, abbreviated as COPPA. This is a set of rules and guidelines that were passed down by the FTC back in 1998, as in the Clinton administration, as in a time before anybody even knew what the internet actually was and was capable of. The thing about it is that these rules and guidelines were effectively meant to protect the privacy of children under the age of 13 logging onto the internet, specifically prohibiting websites from tracking their information and trying to personally cater to their experience in order to use targeted advertising on them. Effectively, whenever a website gathers information on a user, a private user, basically collecting their information that kind of like makes a judgment call on their habits, on their likes, on their interests, and then tries to give them targeted advertising to pander to those interests in order to basically make sure that they're seeing the ads that are most likely to affect them. Yeah, if they had been doing that on people under the age of 13, they're basically committing a crime. And, well, YouTube has basically been doing that for about a decade now. Basically speaking, ever since YouTube started to make its money, it's basically been tracking people in order to basically, give them personalized ads via targeted advertising. YouTube, Google, effectively, this is pretty much what they do and how their data is collected. You would basically think that they're out for this, is the fact that YouTube basically has a policy that ultimately prevents users under the age of 13 from signing up and making a YouTube account. The only problem about that is that their security on that has always been shit, and people could literally lie about it. I mean, basically speaking, I remember basically starting up my first YouTube channel back when I was 14, so I didn't have to deal with all these problems, but every single time I wanted to watch a video that was rated R, and they would ask, how old are you? All you had to do was basically lie, and they never pressed the matter. So that just basically shows that the cracks in the system were always there. So, effectively, I'd say a couple of months ago, I'm not exactly sure how all this went down, YouTube got sued by the FTC, Federal Trade Commission, and basically they lost the lawsuit and they had to pay out a sum of $170 million, which is basically about a day's revenue for them, so effectively YouTube took a sick day. Now, what's interesting is what YouTube does in response to enforcing these FTC laws, because you would think that all YouTube would have to do is effectively stop monitoring people's private information and stop trying to sell them targeted ads. I mean, seriously, for the years I've been on YouTube, people have been trying to give me ads to buy crap that I don't want, I'm not interested in. People even gave me ads for back-to-school stuff. And I'm thinking, I want to avoid everything about this. So, you really don't know what's going on with my life. So, the point of the matter is, I don't even think that it even remotely works, and I think that if you have, any of the slightest sheer willpower, targeted advertising is never going to work on you, no matter what. So, but you would think that it would be as simple as YouTube just not being allowed to do that anymore, especially considering, like, for when it comes to users under the age of 13. And they even have an app called YouTube Kids that's supposedly dedicated for giving the kids a safe user, child-friendly user space where they can see approved kids content without basically getting exposed to all this other stuff that might advertise to them or whatever. Instead, YouTube has pretty much guaranteed that the entire platform as we know it, it's undoubtedly going to change for the worst, and this could be the final push that probably ends up killing YouTube as a platform for a lot of people. It could end up even sinking YouTube as a company. Now, the way that it goes is that YouTube is now basically passing the buck of responsibility onto the content creators themselves. And I don't even know how that's possible, considering that we're not the ones who are collecting people's personal information every single time they log on. We're just putting our own content out there for other people to see. Some of us aren't even really monetized all that much, but those YouTubers that are monetized, they're the ones that are about to probably get hit the worst from all of this. It's going to affect everyone. I'm paranoid enough to believe that it's going to affect everyone. The way that it goes is with YouTube's guideline policies, you now have to set your channel to designate whether or not your content is appropriate for children or not appropriate for children. Effectively, you have to set your content for whether or not it is a child-friendly material or isn't child-friendly material. You can do this on, like, video by video, or you can just set it, everything on your channel is not meant for kids to see. So, effectively speaking, that's already the first warning. However, when it comes to channels that basically do decide to set up, like, their videos on whether or not they are meant for kids, they now lose a whole lot of privileges when it comes to to posting that kind of stuff on YouTube. Because for the one thing, it means that they're no longer allowed to advertise on those YouTube videos, and most YouTube videos, content creators get their revenue by hosting ads on their videos, so that amount of revenue is slashed. Comments and likes are also disabled, which means that their videos cannot receive any kind of feedback. So effectively speaking, if you're making videos that are meant to appeal to children, your entire livelihood basically just got decimated. You can't receive any feedback, you can't even be paid for the content that you're promoting, unless you basically have Patreon supporters or whatnot, but let's face it, if your audience is made up of children, how many of them are actually going to have money to donate to Patreon? So, I'd say that basically channels that focus on... No, actually, let's save this plot point for later. So, that's a bit of a harsh thing right there, because here's where I feel like YouTube is really screwing everybody over. Not the most screwed up that they've gotten in this entire situation, but here's where the scales begin to tip. Over the years, I've noticed that a lot of other YouTubers have complaining that some of the big guys at the top, the most popular YouTubers, they seem to have a lot of content that is being geared towards little kids. That they complain that some people are, like, making their content and, like, making their money off of being more child-friendly and appealing to children. Like, take, for example, PewDiePie, the biggest YouTuber ever. The bulk of his followers is claimed to be made up of a bunch of 9-year-olds that he refers to as the 9-year-old army. And then, there are, of course, guys like Logan Paul who are literally doing what YouTube is doing, except they're doing it directly to kids. Then there are people who complain about game theory and MatPat. Me personally, I don't really have all that much against game theory because, like, I feel like the theories that MatPat is putting out are so flippin' obvious that it's like, when are you going to do stuff that's meant to challenge us again? And a lot of people are complaining that it's like the reason that he's not doing complicated theories anymore is because they go over young viewers' heads. And it's like, you got no evidence to support that he's like pandering to little kids, but I admit that I think that game theory is a bit more child appropriate, even though he brings out some pretty big math equations when it comes to like these videos, but I honestly think that's what makes it interesting. It could inspire people to learn, and keep that idea that sometimes videos can be used to inspire people to learn more about a subject in your mind, because it's going to get interesting. So people are complaining about how some YouTubers are being more child-friendly and trying to pander to a younger demographic. That, whether or not that's true, that's a reaction that YouTube effectively forced some of these bigger creators to take, because, effectively speaking, like advertisers have got this thing about sponsoring a creator on YouTube that uses a lot of foul language, because they feel like if they are not allowed to pander, if they're basically allowed to curse, then they're not going to be able to be viewed by the widest audience possible, as in children that they might be wanting to advertise to. Yeah. So basically speaking, YouTube initiated a policy where if your video contained any kind of vulgar language or violent content, or even references to things that YouTube doesn't like, this basically like corresponds with a major hit against some right-leaning political YouTube channels who basically were being censored because YouTube didn't like their opinions. Yeah. If you had any content like that, YouTube automatically demonetized your video, and could even demonetize your entire channel unless you basically fought against it and basically got the demonetization repealed. Effectively, if you started out your video in the first 30 seconds and you say a curse word, your video could automatically be demonetized. So the point of this little rant is YouTube for years was pushing content creators to be more child-friendly, and now we are going to be punished for being child-friendly. Me personally, I don't feel like my content is child-friendly at all. I am certainly not making my content for younger kids. I'm actually more or less making my content for me at this point, because I just want to get out there and kind of share my viewpoints on games and movies and whatnot. But anyhow, how does this end up affecting everyone and everything, and how is it going to destroy YouTube? Well, let me explain this. The problem is that even if you set your entire channel to not being for kids, and thus be able to keep monetization, comments, and likes and dislikes, basically, if you want to keep your channel thriving, you're going to have to claim that your videos are not child content, they're not kid-friendly. However, YouTube has stated that they are going to be releasing a new learning machine. Effectively, a bot, an algorithm. And as we all know from YouTube's Content ID bot, whenever they introduce a machine that's supposed to be doing the thinking for them, the entire system becomes broken. I have absolutely no confidence in the idea of this machine because I can already foretell the problems that this machine is going to create as it's trying to solve problems. They have literally stated that this new bot, this AI, will scan through the entirety of YouTube and see videos that are uploaded, and it will make a determination regardless of what your channel settings are set to, kids content or non-kids content, and will determine if the video in and of itself has anything that will appeal to children, to a young demographic. Now, you might be wondering, that seems like a sort of gray area. What do they consider to be child's content? Well, In order to basically answer that question, you'll have to pull up the FTC guidelines on COPPA itself. Basically, that determines what will be considered child's content and what will not be. And here's where everything gets to apocalyptic proportions. They basically describe kids' content so broadly that effectively everything falls under kids-related content. Anything that is colorful, anything that features child-known celebrities, including video game characters and cartoon character mascots. So effectively speaking, Mario and Mickey Mouse could basically be completely banned from YouTube because of this. God forbid you basically have a channel that basically features Let's Plays of Mario games or Kingdom Hearts games, much like I had done. Maybe you might feel like you're safe basically playing rated M for mature games like Doom or God of War, things that kids under the age of 15 should not be exposed to. Nope, wrong again, because the way the FTC describes it as, basically these video games, basically the FTC's guidelines on COPPA basically describe any form of video game as children's entertainment, any form of animation as children's entertainment. That's always an argument that's always bugged me, the idea that animation and video games are always made for kids. Now, ultimately, I would sort of understand this because these guidelines were written 20 years ago, back before anyone knew what the internet even was, what it was going to be capable of, and what it could come to be today. But back then, what were video games? Video games were just moving the plumber from one side of the screen to the next, hopping and jumping, going through the castle, jumping through paintings, rescuing stars, maybe a kid in a green tunic trying to save a princess from an evil pig monster. That would be all fine and dandy if it weren't for the fact that Doom was also released around this time. Yeah, and Doom being literally the most popular computer game of all time amongst adults, that's certainly not kids-related content now, is it? It's going to be even worse for the anime-related community, because, effectively speaking, if all animation is deemed for kids, well, I just invite someone from the FTC to sit down and watch a few choice selections from anime like Blood Sea or something. Or maybe from Hellsing Ultimate. Let them decide if this animation qualifies as, quote, kids-related content. And not only that, you're not allowed to basically feature toys in your YouTube video either. So literally speaking, if you are performing in some kind of backdrop that shows off your impressive collection of Godzilla toys, if you do any kind of unboxing that shows any kind of toys that you get fresh out of the box and you review it, if you edit your toys, if you literally take them apart and painstakingly paint new details onto them, if you review Lego, you can't do that anymore. Effectively speaking, your videos will be violating COPPA policy. That's one of the major issues that I have with this entire COPPA policy, because the definition is so broad that it literally encompasses anything that is even remotely stimulating, anything that is even remotely appealing, even the use of color in your thumbnails could be treated as a means to attract the attention of kids and thus be considered kids' content. And so, I guess that for someone who spends a lot of time making Minecraft YouTube videos, Let's Plays, or even does a dramatic retelling of Ocarina of Time, that's not going to be anything that I can actually do with my future, in the future, or at all. Now here's where it gets apocalyptic at this point. This is the point that's making a lot of people, a lot of content creators consider jumping ship and going to another platform. In fact, some of my own friends have already done it. You see, if this new child safety bot determines that your video actually is child-related content, despite the fact that you have set yourself to not be child-friendly, it's not going to consider this as any kind of mistake. It's going to consider this as you lying. It's going to consider this as you lying in order to advertise a product towards children. And the FTC has literally made themselves clear, under no uncertain terms, that YouTube content creators will now be held responsible for their content if it appeals to children in any way. And if this bot determines that your video and that other videos on your channel could be deemed as child-friendly content when you are set to not be child-friendly, starting December, when this takes effect in, I think, January, your content creators could be fined up to $42,000 per video. And I right now feel sorry for all the content creators that have made it big on YouTube that have upwards of 600, 700, maybe more than 1,000 videos on their channel over the years that they've been doing this, because this is effectively the point that's going to cripple anyone who uses YouTube for a living. The idea that a faulty algorithm has to go in with these broad definitions of what constitutes child-friendly content or not can now determine whether or not you or your family will basically be fined $40,000 per video. I don't know about you, but I couldn't even afford one of those little strikes. And that would basically send me into basically destitution. And because I would be unable to pay that, because a lot of people would be most likely to pay that, I don't even want to think about what the consequences would be. As I've said, what constitutes child-friendly content in the FTC's eyes, it's too goddamn broad. It is so broad that effectively everything could be encompassed as child's entertainment. But what I find really just to be the most unbelievably stupid thing about this is the fact that this is actually reflective of reality. It's not just some stupid old person who made up this law 20 years ago who had no idea how that law would change, to how society would change, and how the content of this law is too restrictive in today's society. No, I'd say that it's perfectly consistent on what society is nowadays, and ultimately why I get so friggin' irritated at the idea that YouTube is the one that literally... YouTube and Google are the ones who broke the law, and now they are passing the responsibility onto us, when all they need to do is just stop tracking people's information. The simple fact is, when you actually think about it, everything is appealing to children. You want to know why? Because children are curious. They have a great amount of curiosity. If they see something that they think looks cool, they're going to be drawn to it. It doesn't matter if that thing has an age restriction or not. Kids are of course going to want to get involved with things that are meant for someone older than they are. Effectively speaking, trying to designate something as children's content is effectively irrelevant when kids will be drawn to pretty much anything. Yeah, sure, some content might be a bit too scary for them, but effectively, that's a lesson that kids are going to have to learn. You basically want to experience something, but it turns out to be too much for you. That's a hard life lesson, and you gotta learn it fast. The only two things in this entire world that I actually think have absolutely no interest to a child demographic at all are school and taxes. And of course, by taxes, I mean any kind of adult responsibility. But seriously, I can't imagine kids being interested in anything school-related unless that school-related thing happens to be in an anime where you go to learn how to play a children's card game at school, and taxes. Seriously, because I'm an adult, and I still don't understand how taxes are supposed to work. Anyway, the point of this is that the definition is too broad, and all of this is basically affecting my channel in seriously detrimental ways, because for those of you who have stuck it out in this video for this long, sorry that this video has been completely rambly. I've done this completely unscripted, doing this all from memory because I've made up my mind. This could effectively be the death of my channel. Mine and Ganon Ghidorah's. This plan that we had for years, but we never got around to doing, could basically be the end of us. Which is a shame because we had so many other games that we wanted to do. Effectively speaking, what this could all mean is that, well, with YouTube changing as badly as it is, it really does seem like it's all going to come crashing down. It's not just going to affect my channel in content that I can upload, it's going to affect other people's content that I enjoy watching on YouTube. It's going to get to the point where, effectively, I won't be able to watch some of my favorite YouTube channels anymore because they'll all be banned. Their channels will be destroyed. Now, me personally, I would rather Ganon not lose his channel over this, so here's ultimately what my plan for right now is. New policies in regards to YouTube will take in effect around on December 10th, and effectively, we have until then to let the FTC know about our concerns and how this could potentially destroy people's livelihoods and how the COPPA law needs to be revised to be less restrictive because innocent people will get hurt over stuff like this. We have until December 10th for them to basically hear our message, and basically I think that there's a petition going around. You guys are more than welcome to look that up. Me, I'm not crossing my fingers to anything that the little guy might say to the government, because the government effectively only exists to screw the little guy. So, as far as I'm concerned, I don't know what's going to happen in the near future. All I know is that there's going to be something that's going to be going to have to do. Now, I don't want to basically, do something that I might regret, so the initial plan is I'm actually going to wait about, I'd say, another week or so and see if I hear anything about the FTC coming out with an announcement in regards to COPPA possibly being revised and YouTube's policy update being pushed back sometime past January to give people a bit more time to sort of react or to change up the policies in regards to how COPPA could be revised. But if that doesn't happen, what I am going to do is that I'm going to go through Ganon's channel, and I'm going to just download all of my videos off the channel and save them onto my external hard drive. I'm pretty sure it has about 4 teras. That should be plenty of space to house all this stuff. And when that happens, when it gets down to the wire, once I've downloaded all my videos, I'll go throughout my channel and delete all of my videos, because I'd rather have the channel not have any content at all than basically to have the channel taken down and basically lost, taken down by YouTube, and effectively have all this work that we've done and the ability to basically even surf YouTube and make comments on videos lost forever. So that's basically where we are at right now, and so this is, of course, going to affect a lot of projects. I mean, well, let's face it, over the last few months, this semester has been so bad that I haven't been able to get to any of my previous projects. I mean, things just got way too hectic, you guys. Like, with my family, basically, like, not only with my niece being born, but also, like, other stress that my family has undergone. With me personally, all this stress that I've undergone, things just hadn't been a good time. Some things have been good, some things have been bad, and it just didn't seem like I had any time to actually, or any motivation, really, to do the projects for YouTube that I had in my downtime. So, effectively speaking, the year of God of War, it seems like it won't ever truly be finished, which is a shame because I got the PS4 and the 2018 God of War game specifically to play for this channel. Other projects that I wanted to do, other projects that I wanted to include, Minecraft Jurassic Park had already been indefinitely suspended, but Minecraft Kaijerica is also off the table for a while because what could possibly be more kid-friendly gaming than Minecraft, am I right? Other projects, this one is a bit of a personal, it just hurts me really bad. The Ocarina of Time dramatization. All I had to do was one more episode, but I just kept putting it back, and then October hit, and everything just sort of started hitting the wall all at once. I was planning to actually, like, try to make the video this very week, but then the COPPA situation happened, and I just didn't see any reason to go through all that effort, especially since the video would basically, like, require 20 hours worth of editing, and I'd basically have to take it down within a few weeks anyway. So, the Ocarina of Time 20th anniversary thing, it's not gonna... at this point, depending on, like, what YouTube is doing, it's not ever going to be finished. That's another thing. I forgot to mention this, like... You remember basically, like, when I was going over the broad definitions of what constitutes child-friendly content? You might think that, why don't you just upload a kind of voiceover, an audio drama that basically, like, doesn't require any visuals. As it turns out, YouTube defines child-related content as anything that tells a story. So effectively, I couldn't even, like, do a voiceover narration. I couldn't even do a dramatic reading of a book if I wanted to. So, all my plans to do, like, these radio dramas, especially the one involving, like, a retelling of the Doom franchise, that's all off the table. And another thing, how I mentioned that, like, Matt Pat's game theory videos could actually be considered educational. They even list educational videos as child-related content. And I'm just thinking that, what about all those science supplementary videos that are supposed to be used in classrooms and whatnot? Kids aren't going to those for themselves, you know? I mean, all that's going to be wiped from YouTube as well, because this is literally a plague, I should think. Anyways, I honestly think that the only project I'll actually be completing this year and ever for this channel, depending on, like, what happens in December, will be Luigi's Mansion. And I'm only completing it because, for completion's sake, because it's gotten to the point where I specifically bought that game because I wanted to play it on YouTube. It's a short game, and I'm already basically so close to the end. I'll probably even be able to finish it once I'm done with this video. So, anyways, that just basically shows, like, the possible future of this channel. Sorry that this little rant and ramble has to be so long. It's basically gone on for more than half an hour now, and I just really hated that. I always spend too much time explaining things, and I don't even fully understand this myself. And the worst part about it is, I've gotten so much conflicting information on it. There are big channels out there that are basically saying, panic, the end is near. Then there are other channels that are like saying, nah, don't panic, because you know how lazy YouTube is? There's no way they are going to, like, scan every single YouTube channel, and there's no way the FTC is going to sue every single YouTube content creator, because they don't have the resources for it. Hell, there was even one video out there that says, relax, the FTC didn't specifically say that they would be fining $42,000 per video, except when they did. So, literally speaking, there are people out there saying, I don't know if we can take this video of the guy from the FTC seriously because there are so many jump cuts. Jump cuts? Jump cuts are basically what you use to basically move the conversation faster, to remove the ums and ahs and the awkward pauses as he thinks of the word that he's trying to use. But friggin', you're basically like trying to tell me not to worry about this just because a few jump cuts were added to the video? Effectively speaking, the content of that guy's speech, the video literally has him saying, we will hold YouTube content creators responsible. We will go after all of them. And I can't help but imagine that this is actually all part of some grand conspiracy of old media trying to kill YouTube, which is new media. Because let's face it, I don't watch the news anymore. News is too biased. I watch basically people on YouTube reacting to the news and giving me the real shit on how it goes down. Anyways, I don't really know what else I can say except at this point, the channel and every other channel on YouTube could basically be gone. They will not be as you remember them. Like, if you got any favorite YouTube channels out there that specifically focus on animation, like storytime videos where the people literally just draw like little doodles and whatnot, little animated characters reenacting a story from their childhood or something they experienced, those channels will most likely be hit the worst, and their livelihoods will most likely be destroyed. We'll probably never hear from them again. So, I just really... my heart goes out to them because, like, they've been on the channel for far longer than I have. They've been on the channel for basically as long as Gannon and I have been planning to get this channel off its feet. I have no idea what I'm saying there. So the idea that all that effort and work that they've built over the years will just be gone in a little over 10 days, it's heartbreaking. So at this point, all I can really start thinking of is the fact that the semester is coming to an end, Christmas is just around the corner, and I've got 3 papers that I have to write. 4, if you count that one group assignment that my science teacher is holding hostage. So, and these papers are going to be upwards of 10 pages each, so that's 30 pages of content that I have to basically crank out, and it's about stuff that I really don't give a shit about at all, so... Anyways, all I can really say at this point right now is that for those of you who have subscribed to my channel, like, over the years, thank you guys so much for supporting me. Thank you guys so much for liking my videos and standing by. For those of you who subscribed solely for my Minecraft videos, sorry that I wasn't able to do more content for you. For those of you who who subscribed specifically for my One Monstrous Moment video that I did back in May, I wanted to do more videos talking about Godzilla. Sorry that I basically wouldn't get around to doing that, because what could be viewed as child's content more than Godzilla, am I right? So many things that I wish that I could have gotten to, but just didn't have the time, the energy, or the effort to get into. So I just wanted to take this one last moment to thank you all for tuning in. And on the off chance that basically, like, I do end up deleting all my content from this channel, I would really hope that you guys, like, don't consider unsubscribing. Like, who knows what the future could hold at this point? This could go on for months, maybe sometime well into 2020. Maybe at that point, YouTube and the FTC could come to some kind of new agreement, the laws could be amended, and people on YouTube can finally get back to just making their content again. And if that does happen, I will bring all of my content back. So I hope that basically, like, you don't consider unsubscribing from my channel, even though the channel will basically be all closed up at this point. So anyways, I guess, like, there's not much else to say, but thank you guys so much for tuning in, and hope you guys have a great day. And if you don't hear from me again, well, Thanks for tuning in. You want to know what the most ironic thing about all this is? Is that for a while, keeping up with YouTube got so hard and so complicated, having to like set the dates for like when I wanted a video released and when, where, and how every single time. It got so frustrating. And then with the semester butting its head in and like sucking up all of my time and attention and my energy to the point where I just didn't want to do YouTube at all, it kind of made me feel like maybe I should just stop doing YouTube and focus on like other things. I didn't want to be forced to not do YouTube anymore. Well, c'est la vie.